The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone and good afternoon. Welcome to this BIM Track webinar, introduction into the BIM Track issue tracking platform tool. I'd just like to thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us today. The session shouldn't take any longer than an hour. You're all on mute, so if you do have any questions at any point, please use the chat window or the question window on the right hand side of your screens, and I'll start to answer these towards the end of the session. Okay. So I'm going to start with a brief introduction to BIM Track, look at perhaps why such tools are needed in the industry. So technology, as we know, is evolving at an ever increasing rate, enabling us to not only improve old methods and processes, but to also create new processes and ways of working and communicating with each other. And in our social lives, we're constantly adapting to change, progress and technology, and in many cases we do this really without thinking. If we need a new phone, for example, we tend to get the latest version that's within our budget, and so on. Same with TVs, computers. Apps that we use on these devices, we tend to update when it's available, and in some cases it's automatic. So things we don't really think about, we just change as and when. Now, I'm sure we're all familiar with building information modeling, or BIM, and most likely you guys are involved in BIM in some way or another. And it generally involves the creation, storage, access and sharing of data in some form. And it also involves communication and collaboration. Unfortunately, many of us, though, still rely on such methods, tried and tested methods, such as email. Now, email is still arguably the most used method of communicating issues on projects, but unfortunately, it's probably not the most reliable or efficient method, if we're really honest. One of the problems with this is obviously the risk that it presents. It's quite easy with email. I'm sure people have come across this quite often in your work, that potentially it's very easy to perhaps send an email to the wrong people, the wrong company, the wrong distribution list, perhaps forget to copy in the relevant people. That's certainly happened to me in the past, which can have some detrimental effects on projects. So definitely has some potential for risk on projects there. So the uncomfortable truth is really that unfortunately problems do still occur on projects, and they do need to be tracked and managed efficiently with the correct people involved in order to get the best solutions. And problems do happen. Potentially not problems, hopefully, like the ones you can see here that are just a little bit of a comical look at things, but generally we do find that problems happen on projects, and because of this we do need to improve our methods for managing and resolving these issues in a more efficient manner. And through the development of the BIM collaboration format, or BCF as some of you probably know it as, tools such as BIM Track can help us to do this, which is what we're going to look at today. So I'm going to dive straight into the live demonstration now. So just bear with me as I switch over, and we'll take a look at BIM Track and some of its functionalities and what it can do in some fairly basic workflows. Okay, so I'm going to start with the web interface. So BIM Track is a web-based platform. So if you have an account with BIM Track, or you've been invited to a project with BIM Track, then you would have a login and you would go to the BIM Track website or designated website to the login that you have, and basically log into the project, and you will come up with a screen like you can see on here on the webinar. So just a basic look at that. Within this web-based platform, over on the right hand side in the top corner, you would see your username. Underneath this, if you click on it, you can see that you have you may have numerous hubs. So when you join BIM Track, if you've got an account, you would create a hub. You can create more than one hub if you wish, but generally you'd have your own hub, and you can also be invited to other people's hubs. So within those hubs is where you would then have the individual projects. So you can generally be a member of multiple hubs and multiple projects, where you can manage communications for those projects. So if we just go along on the left hand side now, you can see that we can access the settings for these hubs. You can see your relevant billing, and you can access any project templates you may have created. A bit further down, you'll have your projects, which is the screen that I'm on at the moment. You can see that under this hub that I'm in at the moment, which is Man and Machine UK, we have 3 projects. So the project that I'm going to look at today, that we'll be looking at, is obviously the BIM Track project here. So if I just click on the icon, it initially opens up my dashboard. So you can see all of the activity that's happened on that dashboard. And as you can see at the moment, this is a new project. I've done some basic setup on it, so you can see some pictures of me and some of the actions that I've been taking. But generally, this is an empty project at the moment, which we're going to add to as we go through the processes. So below the dashboard, we have the issues. So this will be where we collate all of our issues. And as you can see at the moment, because this is a new project, we don't have any in there at the moment. Below this, we also have a viewer. So this enables us to view 3D models. You can see I've preloaded a few IFC models here, which is what the BIM Track platform supports. I've preloaded these just for the purpose of this demonstration. As we go down, further down, we have things like metrics and the ability to produce reports, which we'll be looking at a little bit later once we've gone through some of the processes. So at the moment, I'm just going to go back to the issues at the moment, because we have various methods for creating issues. So one of those would be to actually import some issues from different platforms, and we can do this through that BIM collaboration format which I mentioned earlier, so BCF files. So if we do have a BCF from a different platform, we can import it from here if there are no issues there initially. So when we do this, we get a dialog box such as this, which gives us a few options. We can fill some of these in with people that are assigned to the project. For today, I'm just going to be assigning all the things to myself, just so that we can easily access everything. But generally, you have the ability to assign things to the relevant people that are set up on the project. So we just fill in a few of these here. Not all of these will be relevant as we create the issues initially, but just for a couple that I'm going to import, we'll just set a few of the basic settings. So once we've done that, we can then navigate to the location of where we may have the BCF file, and then we can just open that file. And then we should be ready to import the file. We'll get some notifications along the way. We may also get an email notification to say that the import was successful. Obviously, you can turn off notifications as you wish. So if I re-click now over on the left on my issues, we may have to wait a little while for the internet to catch up. But generally, we can see that we've had a couple of issues that have been imported from another program. In this case, it's been imported from Solibri. So we now have 2 issues within our project. And if I go I'm now going to go to our viewer. And we'll just have a quick look at the 3D viewer as well. Now we have the option to add folders into this before we add our files. So I've added in some folders just for the sake of this this demonstration. It's optional. You could just upload your IFCs without using folders. I've just done it so that we can segregate it as if it was perhaps a project and we were doing some regular design reviews, and that would then enable me to sort of switch between older versions and new versions and just check between the two. But this software does allow for version control as well, so we can upload models and it will increment the revisions, which you can see here. A couple of the models are actually on revision 2, so that's quite a good tool. Now, as you can see, we've got some IFCs that are already loaded, and but the screen is blank at the moment, so you have the option to toggle these on individually. So for instance, if we turn this one on, we can then see the architectural model. So the good thing about this viewer really is the fact that it gives access to a wider range of people. People are not reliant on any installed products. This is running straight through your internet web browser. So increasing the access to BIM information, which in my view is very important, because not everybody on a project obviously has access to all of the high-end tools, but we do need people to be interacting with this to make the most of all of the work that we are all doing, and obviously trying to avoid project issues. So this is a very good way with minimal disruption to give many people access. It's also quite simple and self-intuitive to use, which hopefully you'll see through this demonstration. So going back to the models, I've just toggled on the architectural model. I can bring in an MEP model and also a structural model. So I've just quickly federated those 3 IFCs. Right here on the model, we've got some abilities to interrogate items just by selecting them, similar to other options, other platforms that we can use. We have the ability to section quite easily through the building to help us navigate through these as well. So for instance, if we were a project engineer, it may be that we've only got access to this model, and perhaps we could be viewing around this, and perhaps we might even see some things that may happen on site that are not reflected in the model, and so on. So in that case, we could actually just create some issues from here. So if we, along the right hand side, you can see that we've also got some options here where we can access various things. So one of those along down towards the bottom there, I've just clicked on, was the issues. So once we click on issues, it will show us any issues that are already within the project, and also give us the ability to actually add new issues. I'll just turn my clipping pane off. So perhaps if I'm going back to being a site project engineer, perhaps I've got some issues here, I may want to create an issue. I just simply select the create issue. I can give it a title. In this case, it's going to be perhaps the supply, let's say fresh air. Just give it a general title and then maybe a bit of a description. So give it some basics. We can give it a status and priorities, so all of these would be color coded. We'll say that this one's quite critical. We can add disciplines to this of who needs to do this. So we can add multiple disciplines for who could be involved. So these teams and disciplines would help the visibility of the issues as well, so that people generally can see issues that are relevant to them and their team. We can add zones if we have zones incorporated. I'm not going to do that at this point. We could add phases, whatever phases. All of these are customizable. You can set them up yourselves to whatever suits your project. I'm going to assign, as I say, I'll assign all of these to myself just so that it's easy for us to access them and look at them in different ways. We can also add teams that can be notified about the change as well. So then on the right hand side within the model screen, we've got the ability to actually produce a markup. Oops. And undo it if you press the wrong thing, like I keep doing there. So we'll just quickly highlight the areas that we're concerned with, and we can also add some text if we want to the model. Oops. Maybe not. Try that again. So we can add some notes. Just to give people an idea of what it is that we want to mark up there. And then we can save this issue to the project. And so on. So then we move back towards our model. We have the ability to view other things, perhaps. As we're wandering around there, maybe we can interrogate a few items. Perhaps in this case, we might be looking at flex duct here. Maybe I'll get a rough measurement, and we can see there that perhaps that flex is too long. So maybe we can make another issue. Perhaps this could be a typical one. And we'll set that some status. We'll maybe make that a medium. MEP problem. Assign a few things. Again, assign it to the relevant person. Maybe it could be a task team manager from subcontractor or so on. And who needs to be notified. And then we can also save that issue. So one of the new things that have been incorporated into BIM Track very recently is the ability to include sheets. So this is still in its early days of development, but it does work. So we have the ability to actually view our drawings within BIM Track, which can be useful again for those on site who may be more used to looking at the drawings. But again, we could do some interrogation through these as well. If we go to, we can use the sheet to actually mark up an issue. So perhaps we'll just do something as an example, maybe. If we're on site, obviously things on site often do not resemble the model. Perhaps things have not been included in the model, or something on site needs to change. It's nobody's real fault. It's just something that's happened. And the problem that we do have in the industry is we don't seem to relate that information back quickly enough or efficiently enough so that the design can accommodate the change on site to avoid that sort of domino effect. So in this case, here, say that we're a site engineer again, we could perhaps create an issue where maybe we've come across, I don't know, perhaps there's a larger beam than originally intended that's been located maybe in this location, and it's protruding into the ceiling void, and these services maybe need to have had to change to accommodate it. So the site need to relay this information back to the design team so that we can avoid any further issues. So again, we'll do the same process. We'll give it a bit of a description. Again, just give it a few statuses. Again, we'll probably need the MEP and the structural people to have a look at this one. Assign it to the relevant person. Maybe we'll notify the main contractor in this case. So we can save that issue, and this will be then added to the project. So now if we went back to that issue, we could actually click on this issue and take a look at it, and potentially we could add to it. So by adding to it, I would be able to perhaps add some photographs to it to help people understand what's actually happened on site and so on. Obviously, this is a made-up project, so I've just used any old picture, to be honest, but just to give us an idea. So we have the ability to also add attachments, whether they're images or other documents, to our projects. Okay, so if I go back to our issues now, we should start to see that we've started to get some issues collecting now within our online project. So what I'll do now is I'm going to actually flick from the web-based platform now and into Navisworks. So it could be that we may be using Navisworks to federate the models and do some clash detection and general model reviewing, using it as a model review tool. So we'll show a little bit of a workflow with this. It may be, this could be the project wide, or it could be just as a task team. Maybe you're a subcontractor using Navisworks as well. It works equally well both ways. But essentially, I'm switched here to Navisworks. So as you can see, I've got the same model inside Navisworks. And what we have in Navisworks, with BIM Track, we do have a downloadable plugin from Navisworks and also Revit. And what happens when you've installed this, you'll see along the top here, you can see that a tab has been added for BIM Track. So when I click on that tab, you'll see there's some various options, and I have the option to turn on or off my BIM Track tab, which gives me various options. So as you can see, as I open that up, it gives me the option to select whichever hub I'm associated with my login. So I'll select the correct hub, and then I'll select my project. And what this will do is bring up the issues that relate to me on the project. Now, obviously, I've assigned everything to me, so I can generally see all of the issues. But in reality, when you're using this on a project, you would split this up to the teams and relevant teams and disciplines. So you'd only really see the issues you're assigned to, or that is within your team. But in this case, we will see all of the issues here. And we have various options. But before we look at these issues or do anything with the issues, we're just going to go through the process of how we can add extra issues to our BIM track. So I'm just going to go to my clash detection. I've got some clash detection already set up here. So I'm just going to run the test again just to rerun it. We can see we've got a couple of issues that have been found. So if I go back to BIM Track, I've got the options to create issues. Now I can do them similar to the web application where I can roam around the project and I could roam around the project and find clashes individually, or I could actually utilize the clash detection as well. So for instance, just run that one again. And this one, because I think I've messed up the view there, typical. Okay, so I'm going to go back there. So what we'll do now is we'll create some issues from the clashes. We have the option here, obviously, as I say, to create issues individually. We could actually turn preset views to issues, or we can use our clash check. In this case, I'm going to use the clash check. So once we've selected that, it brings up our options from the clash test, and we can select which clash tests we wish to import to BIM Track and the various options. So select a few of these. And we can also set who we'd want to assign these to. Again, similar to the similar options to what we had on the web platform. Okay, so once we've done that, if we go back to our BIM track, we'll see that we've had the clash tests have automatically been added to our project. And we can see we've got two issues added here with some relevant views. Now we've got some options here where we can view that in the model, or we could also edit the issue. And you'll see that it's also added a clash sphere, which you can turn on and off. So when we edit these issues, we can see various options. We can also see a history of what's going on here. And so we can add comments, we could add images, we could add files and so on, and post a history of comments to that issue. So at this point, I'm not going to do that at this moment. We can also update the images if we really wanted to, and we can turn off the clash spheres if we did want to. So at this point, we've created these issues. If we just quickly flick back to the web page and we do a refresh on our issues, we can see that they've also been synchronized with our web application as well. So we're starting to collect quite a few issues now. So what I'm going to do now is move on to Revit. So let's say that I'm the modeler in this case, and I've been assigned the issues to fix that we've just raised in Navisworks. So again, we'll have the plugin for BIM Track, which we can install and works with Revit. So again, the same as Navisworks, we look along the top to the top tab, and we have the BIM Track tab, which gives us some options for BIM Track. So I can open this if I select it, and it will open a similar dialog box to what we had with Navisworks. Let's try and put it somewhere so that everybody can see it. Okay. So again, same as before, we'll just select our hub and then our project, and we should see a list of the issues that are assigned to us. So again, we've got the options now to view in the model. Again, same as Navisworks, exactly the same interface, exactly the same options, except this time when we view in the model, because we're using Revit, it's actually going to create a new view. So it will automatically create a perspective view, which you may not be entirely happy with. So you may want to maybe create a new view that's easier to navigate. Again, you can see that it's added the clash sphere, so you can identify where the issue is. And indeed, there is a clash there between some containment and duct, which means we could go and fix these. Just close a couple of those. I'll just minimize this a little bit so you can see a little bit more on the screen. Just make some amendments to resolve the clash. Okay. We can check that in our 3D view as well if we want. If we go back to our BIM track, we've got the option now where we could actually update the image just to show that we've fixed the issue. And then we could go in and we could maybe add a comment to say what has been done. So we can see it tracking the history of what's going on here. We could reassign that back to maybe our manager, lead coordinator, or whoever is responsible for checking, and so on. I'll just publish this, publish it back to the website, and then we'll just quickly take a look at the other issue. maybe create a slightly better view. Delete the clash views if the clash spheres, if you don't want them on there, you can easily get rid of them. Okay, so we know where the issue is. We'll just quickly modify that. Again, we can check it in our 3D view, and we could update our view. Oops. So these little dots give you these extra options. So if we go down to viewpoint, we can update that view to the resolved view, and we'll just give it an update within the issue, just to say what's been done again, same as we did before. Oops. Again, we would reassign this to the relevant person for checking, and we'd give it a save. So once we're happy we've resolved those, we can save the project. Again, if we go back to Navisworks, we'd go back to Navisworks quickly. We'll go back to the home view. And again, we've got the option here to, if we were to go back to our clash detection, if we were to rerun the tests, sorry, before we do that, obviously we want to refresh the, oops, oh, didn't want to do that. Whoops. We could have refreshed it. Unfortunately, I've had to reopen it. Joys of a live demo. Just wait for that to open. Should be open any second. Okay, so we could have just done a refresh on the model, but in this case we've just reopened it. So if we were to go to our clash test and we just select the ones we want to just rerun that test, and oops, we can see in the clash test that these have now been resolved. So if we were to go back to BIM Track now, and we can use the same clashes option, so clashes to issues, we'll select those same clash tests, select the information that we want, again, whichever is relevant to you for your project. And we'll just publish. We can now see that these issues have now been updated and now have the status of closed, as they were resolved in the clash test. So we're happy that those have been resolved there through test with the clash. We can, if we want, still view these in the model. Obviously, that clash test, I messed up the view on that one, but essentially we can go in and just check that it has been done. We can see that that's been resolved. So again, we can view a few of the other issues. Whatever issues we go to generally will take us to that part of the model that's been saved as the view. So if we now go back to the web platform, and we'll just do another update, and we'll just start to see that we've got our issues. We can see our issues, and that 2 of those are now closed. They've been resolved. And if we were to go to our 3D viewer, I'll just toggle these 2 on. So what we need to do here is we need a new IFC model to show the updates that we've done. So what we can do, a new function, very new function to BIM Track at the moment, is the option to publish. So we can publish an IFC directly from Revit up to BIM Track without that sort of more manual process. So this is quite a nice new addition. So you have the option to choose the setup you'd like to use for your IFC. We can select, if you're using folders, you can select the folder you wish to upload to, and if there is no model there, it will actually upload a new model into that folder if one doesn't exist. If the one does exist, it will just take a new revision. In this case, it's not there, so it should be a new revision. We've also got the option to publish any sheets that are in the model. In this model, we only have 1 sheet. It's a very basic model, just as an example. So we'll just select the sheet that we do have, and we can select OK on that. And once we're happy with those, we can just publish. We'll give it a few moments to publish that to the website. We'll get a notification, as you can see, that was successful. So if we flick back to the web platform and just do a refresh on our models in the 3D viewer, and typically just give that a few seconds, it should have uploaded. Let's just double check that. Maybe just try that one again. View, of course, we need to select the view. My fault there, missed a step there, but yes, we need to select the view, usually the 3D view, or if you've got a specific view set, which I think I have there, make sure you've got a 3D view selected, and then it should export your IFC. So we just give that a go again. Okay, so hopefully, probably have to give it a few moments to update. Yes, so there we go. We've now got, it's still uploading at the moment, but it has recognized it. So if we just give it a few seconds. Okay. So we can see where our issues have been resolved. We've got our updated file. Which we can interrogate. As I say, if we're using folders, we could go to the previous issues and maybe take a look at the difference. We could perhaps change the color. Do a quick compare. And so on. And again, we've got the ability to toggle these all on and off individually as we wish. So again, we could also look at our issues. So we could go and view our issues. And again, it will take you to the saved viewpoint, whatever that saved viewpoint is within the model. Some other functions that we have along here, we've got our project tree. So what we can do, we could interrogate objects. Just for ease, I'll probably toggle off a few of these. We can select components through our tree. Our model tree gives us some information, and we can also see some extra information down here with the properties and attributes, and expand on those if needed. So whatever information has been included in the model, it's all viewable here within the viewer. As I say, we've now got the ability to include sheets, viewing sheets, and so on. We've also got the ability to look at spaces. If spaces or rooms are in the building, we can view those in an isolated way. If we just reset that view, I'll just quickly go back to here. Just show some demos of sort of visuals that we can get from here. And again, if I go to various spaces, it can isolate just those rooms, which can sometimes be handy if you're just looking at a local area. You want to localize what you're looking at. We have the option to save these views. It's quite simple. If we create a view there, we can just create a new one. And they'll be available down the left-hand side for quick and easy access. So that is more or less the functionality of the viewer. There's various things to say. We can navigate around quite easily. We can interrogate items through measurement, markups, and create new issues from the web, giving greater access to the project. So now we'll just move on to the metrics side of things. So just over here on the left-hand side, below the model viewer, we have metrics. So this can give us a quick overview of where we perhaps are on the project, what issues are outstanding, and so on. And we have various ways of manipulating this at the moment. Obviously, this is quite a small project. We've only got a few issues, but just to give you an example, it gives some quite nice visuals. If this was a real project, you would also see a good time frame start to appear, and this would be a very good way of quickly identifying where perhaps potential issues are arising or hold-ups in resolutions and so on. But it's also a very good filtration tool as well. So it's an interactive metrics, so we can quickly filter by whichever setup we've got. I'm filtering at the moment by discipline. So in this case, I can quickly find out how many, say, architectural issues I've got. It's found 3 issues. I can then select those, and it will take me and just show me those issues alone. So it's a very good, informative, and quick metrics tool, which we can customize as we wish. We can then move down to reports. Again, we have the ability to customize this as you wish, to give you a specific output that you're interested in. Perhaps you're only interested in a certain discipline issues, and so on and so forth. You could set up quick filters quite easily and create templates for your reports, which I think with the recent update, we can also schedule automatic reports now as well, through the beta version, which you can see here at the top right hand corner. But otherwise, what we'll do just for this demo purpose, because we haven't really got a full project set up, we'll just select the print option. Obviously, it gives you the option to print these reports so that you could take them with you or distribute them to your team, or whatever the requirement is. Obviously, some people still prefer to work with a more paper output perhaps, or maybe it's just convenient, or maybe it's just to update an issue to common data environment for record. But either way, we've got the option to print to printer or PDF or so on. I'm just going to cancel that. What that will look like, it also gives you a HTML version on the web page and give you an example of what that report would look like. It starts off with the metrics based on whatever settings you've filtered by. Obviously, we didn't filter any in this example. And then it will go through each of the issues that are within that filter, giving you some of the basic information that you've attached to those issues in a nice, easily readable and presentable format, like so. Which means that basically anybody on the project, regardless of whether, even if they don't have access, can still get to see the reports and see what issues are outstanding and so on. So a very good metric reporting tool as well. So I think that brings us towards the end of the demonstration. There will be a recording of this, which will be uploaded to YouTube, should you wish to get access to this at a later date. But thank you all for your time. That's great. Thank you.